going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 29 of the Diego Colley Football Show. And I got a lot to talk about. Sorry this episode's coming out a little bit later. I was traveling back from school. Didn't have time to record before I left. Finals going on. But I'm here now, and we got a big game to cover on Thursday night. But first, got to cover what happened last week. Going to be kind of rattling around for this episode. I think I'm going to talk about the Seahawks, last week's game, the Rams game coming up, and then talk about kind of the main points of NFL Week 15 before getting on to Week 16 preview. So we'll start in Seattle. What a sweat of a game that was. That was a game that I didn't think it was going to be this close. I don't think a lot of people thought it was going to be this close of a game. Even though I said I thought that the 14-point spread was a little bit generous to the Seahawks. I felt that a 14-point spread against a team like the Colts, a solid team. They're sitting at 8-6 now. They're 8-5 coming into the game. A team with a really good run game they're going to rely on. I just didn't think that it would fit in the game script. And I know it was Phillip Rivers. And it's hard to say if I could say he shocked me. I wouldn't really say that I was surprised by what I saw from Phillip Rivers. But I was impressed in some aspects. I mean, the arm wasn't there. Like, I don't think many people thought it was going to be there. I believe there's only 2 attempts down past 20 yards. One was on the first drive of the game, was incomplete, and then one was picked off at the end of the game. But the way that Shane Steichen called that game was what an elite coach does. He schemed them in to a way to win that game. I believe Matt Hasselbeck say this morning, when Phillip Rivers walked off the field with 50 seconds to go in that game, he had the lead. He gave his team the lead with a chance to win it, and that is on the back of his kicker. His kicker, Blake Rubio, made a huge 60-yard field goal. But he gave them a chance to win. And I don't think this was a defensive problem. I think it was just a great game by Shane Steichen, because so much of what we saw in this game was run on first down, run on second down, get Rivers to a 3rd and short, a 3rd and 4, a 3rd and 5, and trust him to go through his progression and make the right read and fit the ball into a tight window on a 3rd down and convert. And that's honestly what he did, to be honest. Like, his accuracy was there. There was no questions about his accuracy to me. Obviously, the power wasn't there, and obviously it took the ball a while to get there, but you could tell the mind was there, like, and he was putting balls into tight windows, and they made a few contested catches in this game. They kind of like shocked me, quite frankly. Just looking at 3rd down efficiency, I mean, they were 5 of 13, which isn't fantastic, but the Seahawks were 2 of 13, which is very, very poor. So they gave him a chance to win the game, and I'm impressed by that. We're hearing Rivers is going to start next week against the 49ers. Would love if they could seal that one there. I think this is a team that can win a game. They're probably going to have to win 2 games to make the playoffs. I don't know necessarily if they can do that, but they got the Niners and Jaguars coming up with the Texans in Week 18. I feel like this game against the Niners is kind of a must-win for these guys. And I think it's a winnable game, which I'll get to later, but I feel like the way that they're playing, the defense is good. I mean, the defense holds the Seahawks to 18 points, which isn't all on the defense of the Seahawks for making errors themselves, but the defense is going to keep them in games. Their rushing is going to keep them in games. I'll talk about the Colts more later, but I was impressed by what I saw from Indianapolis. On the Seahawks point of view, and I'm going to talk kind of in the grand scheme of things, point out to some things that happened in the game, and then connect it to what we're going to see in LA versus LA this week on Thursday. This was a rough one. This was a really, really rough watch on offense. They couldn't run the ball. In the first half, I believe they had -3 rushing yards, or maybe it was 3, but it was poor all around. Kenneth Walker was 9 carries for 17 yards. I thought he was pretty bad. And that's kind of disappointing because he's coming off a stretch of a few games where I thought he was by far the better back in the backfield. Just thinking back to that first LA game, in the receiving game, in the running game, he averaged 4 yards a carry. He had 3 receptions, 44 yards. And then in that Tennessee game, 71 yards rushing on a 6.5 yards a carry, 30 yards receiving. He was building some momentum. And then in the last few weeks against Atlanta, 10 for 29, and Indianapolis, 9 of 17, it's been really, really ugly. Charbonnet, I guess, was a little bit, I wouldn't even call him a bright spot. I mean, he was just a little bit better than Walker. He was poor in pass protection, I thought. There was one player where he gets blown up by Latu, and I'm not sure why you should match him up with the defense end in that scenario, but it happened, and that gave up the Seahawks, I believe, only sack of the game was that play. He ran 8 carries for 31 yards. Donald was 4 carries for 5 yards. Shaheed got a carry for some reason. I don't need to see Shaheed get carries anymore, especially considering what we saw in this game. Rashid Shaheed was, obviously JSN was a bright spot. I mean, I'd say the receiving game had its bright spots, but it had definitely had many, many lows. The positives from that group was JSN had a casual 7 receptions for 113 yards on a game that felt like an off game. I mean, and it just kind of in the second half of the game, he kind of just exploded. He had a few of those catches where he catches it in the middle of the field and he runs for 15 to 20 yards after the catch. And it's like, whoa, that was a 30-yard reception. Shaheed, this was kind of the Rashid Shaheed game for me. 5 receptions, 74 yards was massive. That whole last drive is because of him. Sam finds him 2 times in a row to get them in the field goal range instead of Jason Myers, who we'll talk about. And this is kind of the role I want to see Cooper Kupp in. 5 receptions, 46 yards, just those reliable underneath targets on a big third down, a big fourth down, like to shorten the sticks for a third down if it's second and long, first and long. And that's where I want to see Kupp. And that's why the emergence of Shaheed is so massive for this team, because you can now allow JSN and Shaheed to be the kind of deep threat guys. And then you can have Kupp, you can have Barner as the reliable guys underneath for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, 22 completions, 36 attempts, 271 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, sacked once. I thought he was inaccurate at times. I thought that ever since that Rams game, he's kind of just had happy feet. It seems like he's trying not to throw the interception, but he's kind of panicking and not sitting in the pocket quite long enough. And he's moving around, but he didn't look too confident going to run the football in this game. It just looked shaky, and he was inaccurate. There's a play where they're in the red zone, and Shaheed's running kind of a bang 8 post, breaks on the goal line, cuts in, and there's a little bit not on the same page. And whether that was Shaheed's fault, I'm not sure, or Sam, but Sam puts it behind him, and if he puts that even low and in front of him, high and in front of him, give Shaheed a chance to make the catch. He doesn't. He misses him after the break, and that's a missed opportunity in the red zone. They score 18 points in this game on 6 field goals, and Jason Myers bailed them out. These weren't chip shot field goals. They had a few drives where they were moving it, I would say, but he made a 56-yarder for the win. It's just absolutely, he bailed you out of this game. I heard a stat. I didn't realize he was having this crazy of a season. He is 8 field goals away from breaking the record for an NFL season in field goals made in a year. I did not know that at all. And it speaks to the type of season he's had. He hasn't missed a kick since the Rams game. Beside that, even in that game, he only missed that 160-yarder, which I don't think, he's not a 60-yard kicker, but that one he made in this game was quite good. He's 88% on the year. He's kicked a lot of them, 100% extra points. He's made a long 57, and he has the most points in the league at 153. He is overall 37 of 42, and he's only missed 1 kick under 40 yards. He's just been great this year. And he literally, he bailed them out in this game, quite honestly. And that's what kind of good teams do, though. The Seahawks statistically have one of the best special teams in the entire league, and I think it's won them a lot of games this season. In that Cardinals game, they win the special teams battle. The Cardinals kicker kicks it out of bounds to get the ball on the 40 to go kick the game-winning field goal, the first game. The Steelers game, the Steelers guy doesn't know the rules. The Seahawks do. They pick it up, score the touchdown. There's been multiple instances, and I have to give a shout-out to Jay Harbaugh on this point, where the special teams has been a very, very above caliber and above the opponents that's winning you these close games and beating you in the margins. Quite simply, something like putting Brandon Peely on kickoff and having a big dude out there to knock out the ball and force a fumble. Just they're being innovative in that sense, and they're really playing through 3 stages of the game, which isn't, I would say, commonplace across the NFL this season. People are, I wouldn't say slacking, but special teams is a huge part of what we're seeing right now. Anything else from this Colts game? I just think there's a lot you want to flush. There's a lot I want to flush from it. And it's a short week, so it's not like I think that could be good in some senses. But this happens. That's kind of my end all be all of this. This happens. And this was a game you were favored by 14 points, but this was a game against an 8-5 football team that it's super hot at the beginning of the season. They've been kind of cold recently, but they've still been losing close games. I mean, they lost to the Texans 20-16. They lost to the Chiefs 23-20. And those 2 are with Daniel Jones, okay, but they're still playing teams close. They haven't been getting boat raced out of there. The Steelers game they lose was a 7-point loss where Jones turned the ball over 4 times, I believe. They haven't really got blown out by anyone. They lost to the Jaguars by a few scores. That's when Jones got hurt and Leonard. And Leonard went in the game. But it was a good football team. If this happened against a Titans-like team or even a Falcons-like team where it kind of looked like it was going to happen in the first half, second half, you come out and blow them out, I would be a little bit more concerned. But overall, it's a quality football team. And they found a way to win. I think that's the most important part about it. Good teams find ways to win games when they don't have it completely, when some aspects of the game aren't really clicking for the team. The other aspects picked them up. The special teams and the defense picked them up in this game. So that's all I got to say on that matter. Now, coming up to this week, quite possibly the biggest game of the entire season in the entire NFL is happening at Lumen Field on Thursday night. I will be there. Seahawks versus Rams for first place in the NFC. The winner goes to 12-3. It's the first Thursday night football matchup ever with two 11-win teams. So it's not ridiculous to say that this is the best Thursday night game of all time. Not at all. So let's just get right into it. Seahawks are hosting them. We'll go back to the first matchup. That's where I think we have to start here. In that first matchup, the Seahawks lose 21-19, and a game where Sam Darnold throws 4 interceptions. Matthew Stafford has his worst game of the entire season, and the Rams find a way to win. And the Rams find a way to win in a fashion that they probably didn't even think should have been palpable at all. They had to require the Seahawks getting a chance to drive down and kick a field goal and missing a 60-yarder after the Rams punter pins them on the 1-yard line to even put them in that scenario. A game where you win the turnover battle by 4 and you end up, you won it by 3. The Seahawks give you 2 short touchdown drives and you barely win the game. Matthew Stafford in that game, his total EPA was -4. Sam Darnold was -11.6. But Stafford was not good. He was rattled. His completion percentage was 55.6. And on a yards perspective, obviously the Seahawks had to move their way down the field more times, but it's hard to say besides the picks. Besides the picks, the Seahawks moved the football. They had almost 400 total yards. And that was the first game this season where I really thought the rushing game was good. It felt like that was Kenneth Walker's best game on the ground. He was 16 carries for 67 yards. Charbonnet was 11 for 37. They had success on the ground against a good Rams defense. And Darnold, besides the 4 interceptions, A.J. Barnard had 10 receptions. Kenneth Walker had 3 for 44. JSN had 9 for 105, and there was all these misses there. So to this game on Thursday night, some big injury news, kind of affecting both teams, but I'd say it's hard to say in favor of one team, but I'd say it kind of favors the Seahawks as Davante Adams comes up early, pulling up on his hamstring in the game against the Lions. I don't think he's going to play. He's listed as, McVay said we'll see. He's listed as questionable, I believe. But with the hamstring injury of a guy of his age, and although it's a massive game, it's a short week. If it wasn't a short week, I think that changes things. But a short week, and on the play, if you watch it, he goes face down on the ground. He's laying there. He's holding his hamstring. It wasn't one where he got up right away, limped off, like, oh, he tweaked it. It looked like a pretty serious, even if it was just a strain of the hamstring. Braden Fisk, also the talented second-year defensive tackle, did not practice again. Charles Cross, though, that's only a kind of rough one on the Seahawks side. Charles Cross tweaked his hamstring on the game-winning field goal attempt, I believe. He got pushed into awkwardly, fell on top of. That's a potential massive one because with a guy like Jared Verse and if a guy like Braden Fisk plays, coming off the edge against Josh Jones, against a Seahawks offensive line that has kind of struggled recently, even in the run game too, having Josh Jones out there in the run game, I don't really love that. But it seems like there's more of a chance Cross could play than Adams for sure. I'm not sure about Fisk. His Cross seemed like just a tweak. He walked off the field. But again, it being a short week, it's hard to really tell. What do I think wins this game for either team? The Rams are coming off a massive win against the Lions. A win where the offense was explosive. The offense looked unstoppable. And quite frankly, that's how their offense looked the last 2 weeks. The Cardinals game, they're kind of perfect. Ever since that Panthers game where Stafford throws those interceptions, they have been perfect. The Cardinals game, they won 45-17. Lions game, they won 41-34. But in this Lions game, the defense kind of gave up some cracks, especially in the passing game, which I think favors the Seahawks looking at that. Because the Rams held Jahmyr Gibbs to 13 carries for 38 yards and David Montgomery to 7 for 32. But, just look at these receiving numbers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 13 for 164. Jameson Williams, 7 for 134. And the game script did favor kind of a shootout, back-and-forth type game. But Jared Goff was pushing the ball down the field with a lot of success in this game, to be honest. He was only sacked 1 time, had a QBR of 90, had a QB rating of 111. And let me see the pressure numbers, because I'm not sure how much time he was actually in danger in this game. He was pressured 25 times, so I guess they were getting after him a little bit, but he did drop back 41 times. So he threw the ball 41 times. So that is over 50%, but that means he's doing a good job of getting rid of the ball, and finding his guys like Amon St. Brown and James Williams. I think that's a comparable type of duo to Rashid Shaheed and JSN. I think this is a game that we can have success in the secondary, especially comparing to a Rams secondary that it's hard to call it fluky their last game against the Hawks, but I don't think that they're the greatest, to be honest. Ahkello Witherspoon was a guy that played in the last game against the Seahawks and was a healthy benching in the last game, a healthy scratch. Emmanuel Forbes was a guy that I don't think is very great overall, and he had that huge, like arguably game-saving play against Rashid Shaheed in the end zone last time. So like there's like 3 plays that if they go the other way, the Seahawks probably win the last game in LA. And it's just hard to see how, obviously there's things that go the other direction, like ticky-tack plays, but it's hard not to feel good right now as a Seahawks fan. And I know a lot of the conversation is just like, oh, Sam Darnold's going to be Sam Darnold. Like that's what the argument is against the Seahawks is, oh, we're not going to trust Sam Darnold in a big game against the Rams. The Rams are his kryptonite. He's been bad ever since the Rams game, which I agree with. I was listening to Hawk Blogger yesterday, and he made a great point. I thought, just watching Sam Darnold, he just looks a little more rushed and a little more flustered. Early in the season, he was so much more relaxed. His feet were so much calmer. When he would drop back, he was going through his progression seamlessly. There was multiple plays where he goes from one guy to one guy to one guy and gets all the way down to his third or fourth progression. And that just hasn't what I've seen. Like in that Colts game, he's moving his feet really, really fast. He's stepping up into a guy, trying to throw the ball away and throwing it at someone's feet. It's just he hasn't looked as comfortable, as smooth. And that could be a problem in this game because this is the Rams defense that forces turnovers. And I'm not quite sure if another guy we have to talk about is Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak, I feel like has had a pretty poor last few weeks, to be honest. And whether that's stemming from the Rams game, in the Rams game, it didn't seem like Darnold was adequately prepared. And I don't know if this was Darnold in his head or what the whole scenario was, but he just wasn't prepared for what the Rams were going to bring on defense. I don't know if that was a scout team, a game planning issue. What they told him wasn't what he ended up seeing, but he was obviously confused by some things. And Chris Shula, one of the best defense coordinators in the entire league, probably going to be a head coach next season, has had Darnold's number in the last 2 years. And you have to think he's not going to come in with the same exact game plan. That's not what good teams do. He's going to have some other stuff for Sam, and he's going to see kind of the holes in how he's been playing in the last few weeks and try to exploit those and force turnovers because that's what's going to win you games right now against this team. The Seahawks did not turn the ball over against the Colts, which I think is a massive thing to point out because the offense struggled. They scored 18 points. They had 6 field goals, but they didn't turn the ball over, which means they didn't give the Colts any short fields that resulted in pretty much not auto, but easy touchdown drives where you had to go 20 yards, you had to go 30 yards, you get 2 first downs, and you're going to get the end zone, which is what they did in that last Rams game. 2 of the Rams' 3 touchdown drives were sub 40 yards. I believe one was like a 5-yard drive. And it's because Darnold just handed them the ball practically. Yeah, their first touchdown drive of the game, he throws an interception on the Seahawks' third place from scrimmage and gives them the ball on the 3-yard line. Like, that's just not what you can do against a good team. And in that game, with a defense of our caliber, just if you punt the ball, it gives you so much of a better chance. And that's something that people are that good. I've had a great sentiment on. It's just, and I think I'm kind of bouncing all over the place here, but there's so many factors to this kind of this part of the game because I think since the Rams game, Sam has been better about not turning the ball over. He has been a little more careful with certain things, and I think that has also kind of led to him looking a little more like jumpy in the pocket because he's like, I don't know if he's second guessing himself, but it's something. There needs to be kind of a happy medium there because there hasn't been as many of the shots downfield taken. Just thinking back to the last few games since then, they obviously have the Titans game where JSN has a huge game. The Vikings game, I don't know what his deepest shot he took downfield was. It's hard to remember a time when he did take one. He didn't connect on one. It's hard to remember if he even attempted one. The Falcons game, I don't know that there was a big deep shot down the field again. I'm just thinking back to it. I don't think there was a big a big chance where he gives JSN the ball and an opportunity one-on-one with the corner, with the safety, or JSN beats someone, he gives him the 50-50 ball. I think we need to see that. We need to see an opportunity at that. And I think this is the time where it could be Shaheed. They've been a lot of Shaheed's success. They haven't even given him one opportunity. The one I'm thinking of is the first Rams game when he beats him I think it was Forbes down the sideline, and Darnold kind of underthrows him. It was a catchable ball, but he makes a diving play to break it up. We haven't seen a Shaheed 50-yard in the air attempt to give him the chance to run underneath it and catch the ball. I don't think, unless one's just unless I'm missing one. So I hope that's something that we can see in this game. I think that a lot of the attention is going to be to Jason. Obviously, Chris Shula is not going to let Jason beat them, but I think this could be a chance for Shaheed to take the top off across the field, and Donald will give him a chance to run underneath it and kind of ignite the crowd there on Lumen. I think that's a very, very feasible thing that could happen in this game. On the defensive side of the ball, Mike McDonald, he hasn't beat McVay. He beat McVay one time last year. It was the end of the season. Game didn't matter. Rams are sitting starters. He hasn't beat McVay the last 2 years in a meaningful game, but it seems like he's kind of had his number. And earlier this season, he did. They kind of stuffed the run game. I believe that Corum only had 8 rushes for 10 yards. Kyron had some success that kind of aided by a long 34-yard, 12 carries for 91. So he did have success on the ground. But through the air, Devontae Adams had 1 catch for 1 yard. It was a touchdown. It was a slant in the end zone. Puka had 7 for 75 and a fumble forced on him. And no one else had more than 1 reception. Colby Parkinson had 2 for 14 yards. Everyone else had 1. Stafford kind of couldn't get anything going. They limited the deep shots. There was no deep shots taken. And I think that proves to the secondary. And in going back to that was a game where I don't think that Jordan Love played. That was a game without Jordan Love. And that only makes his defense better. Ty Okada played in that game, and he did a good job. I don't think he didn't do anything to leave a big gaping hole in the back of the secondary. Like, oh my God, I could really use Jordan Love right now. He graded out as a 61, which is average. He had a solid game. I think having Jordan Love back is massive. Another guy, Jaron Reed. Jaron Reed in the middle of the defense. That's a guy that's going to help stop the run. That's a guy that's going to help stop Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, who's had a lot of success in the last 2 weeks. And kind of the last guy, Ernest Jones. I think this goes under the radar a little bit. He graded out really poorly in this game. He graded out as a 43, and I think he was playing injured. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say he was playing at less than 60%. This was a guy that had an ugly-looking knee injury the week before of that game, and people thought he might have tore his ACL in that Commanders game. And he rushes, I don't know if I'd say rushes back. He wants to play against his former team. He goes out there, he guts it out. He plays the entire game, but doesn't play the next week against Tennessee. And I think that kind of just shows he wasn't healthy in that game. There's so many factors of that first game that I think if those things change, the game's a whole lot different, because it's not like they owned us, but having a healthy best middle linebacker, one of the best middle linebackers in the league on the field, is a difference maker. Having one of our highest played players in the entire defense, Julian Love, back is a difference maker. And having a guy like Tariq Woolen playing with a little more confidence, I don't think that's should be overlooked. He graded out pretty poorly in this game, but he's played some great football the last few weeks, and I don't think that should be overlooked at all. He was a guy that had a lot of hate from people at the beginning of the season, rightfully so for some of the plays he made, but he's played some steady football. He hasn't had a single moment in the last few weeks where it's like, Reek, what are we doing? I think he's been better than Job. I think Job has had a pretty poor, I don't know if I'd say like last 5 week stretch, but definitely as of recently this season, I don't think he's been his best at all. And kind of just, I mean, it's not to his fault. He's a guy that's going to play hard, but he's not the biggest body. And I believe the Colts beat him on a few plays, just kind of back shoulder, just having the bigger guy on him and just out muscling him on some plays like that. He had a rough call defensive pass interference. I don't put that on him, but I think it's a factor. And I would like to see Woolen on the field more than Job. I'm going to check out the snap counts here because I'm actually not sure if Job outsnapped him. He had been outsnapping him recently. But in this game, Job had 49 snaps and Woolen had 37. So yeah, he did. I'd like to see Woolen get back to getting more there and being the corner when they're in just kind of base 4-3 instead of it being Job and then Woolen comes in when they go nickel and Woolen goes to the outside and Witherspoon goes to the side. I'd like to see it be Witherspoon and Woolen on the outside to start the game tomorrow if they start in base. Well, this last few X factors of this game, I think Nahim Worry is a massive, massive X factor. The Seahawks they played the Rams 3 tight end sets the best of any team in the NFL in that first game. And I think that has something to do with a guy like Eamon Worry, who you can leave on the field and like technically you're playing nickel because it's another DB in replace of a linebacker, but he's going to guard Colby Parkinson. Colby Parkinson isn't going to do anything on Nahim Worry. And especially have a guy like Jordan Love, who I think is better in coverage than Okada, guarding another guy like Higbee, or I believe Higbee actually might be hurt, but Parkinson, Ferguson, the guy from Oregon, they can guard it really, really well. Yeah, Higbee's hurt. He will not be activated ahead of Thursday's game. That's just another weapon gone for Stafford. So how do I think this game's going to go? I think with everything I just told you, I think the Seahawks have success through the air. I think that they definitely can. I'm going to check out the Rams' pressure numbers against Goff. They did have 25 pressures. That only amounted to 1 sack. Going back to that first game against Seattle, they had 22 pressures and no sacks. I think it's the easy answer. If the Seahawks don't turn the ball over, I think they win this game. You can live with one. You don't want to. You can live with one. If they can keep the turnover battle even, I think they win this football game. And if that turnover, you can turn the ball over. You cannot turn the ball over in your own territory. I think that's a completely different thing. If you're taking a shot deep down the field, they intercept it on a deep shot. When you're trying to stretch the field, you're trying to expend it, and it's kind of more of an arm punt situation. You give them the ball in their own territory. Okay, we cannot have the jump pass on 3rd and 4 to the middle of the field. That not something that Sam Darnold ever does. That cannot be something that happens in this game. We cannot have the third play of the football game, him forcing the ball to JSN on a play that he hasn't done all season, just forcing to a guy in the middle of the field. Those are the things we can't have. Those are the interceptions that can't be made. And quite honestly, they have to be able to run the football to some success. The performance against the Colts was abysmal. It was embarrassing. I'm curious if they go to Olu at center. I don't know if it's directly tied to Sundell in the run game, but Sundell's first game back, and the run game looks very, very poor for a majority of the game. That's not really a great sign. I'd love for Ken Walker to have another good game. If Ken Walker being a reliable back that can give you 60 yards and a few receptions to check down on 3rd downs, I think is huge. I think that was an underlooked part of the game against LA the first time. Just Sam made a few great plays where he just dumps it off to K9 in the flat, and K9 being so good as good as he is after the catches it and breaks the tackle and runs for 10 to 15 yards. That's what we need him to do. That's why he's so much more of a valuable asset than Zach Charbonnet. Because Charbonnet, if he catches the ball in the flat, he's going to run straight, he's going to run someone over, and he's going to fall forward for the extra yard. Okay, he's going to get 5 to 6. But Kenneth Walker has that opportunity to break it for 10 to 15 and make it an explosive play. I think that's the key. I think him finding Barner, him finding Cup underneath is a huge part of this game. And I think him continuing to further his connection with Shaheed could potentially result in a big play. I'm the predict it. I think that the first touchdown of this game is early in the game, a play action deep shot. JSN's coming underneath, and it's Shaheed over the top, and that kind of just ignites the crowd, ignites the whole game. I think it's hard to hold Stafford under 150 multiple times, but I don't think he has much success. I think having no Devontae is absolutely massive in this game. With Devontae Adams playing, I think completely changes the narrative, the entire narrative of this game. And that kind of leaves it to, you got to guard Puka Nacua. And obviously Puka Nacua he's unguardable. I mean, it's hard to really game plan. He's kind of a guy like JSN. He can do it so much. But especially in the red zone, I think it's massive because Devontae has been their red zone guy. If they're inside the 5, it's faded Devontae, slanted Devontae. He's kind of their go-to red zone guy, more so than Puka. So not having him kind of in that sense, if you can hold it when they get to the red zone to a field goal, or if they go for it and hold him to a turnover on downs like they did early in that first game, that's a game-changing play. I think they win this game. I think if the defense plays how they've been doing, which I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be. They're fully healthy. There's no weak point there. McVay's going to beat him on some plays, but I don't think there's any reason this game should get into a shootout. I trust Mike McDonald. I trust how he's going to scheme up against this game. I'm nervous for this game. I'm excited. I haven't been this excited for a regular season game in quite some time. It's probably the biggest game of the year. I'm really happy it's on prime time. That if the Seahawks can win this game, it can really shut some narratives up about the entire team, about the quarterback, about a lot of things. I think the Seahawks win. I think the final score is, I'm going to go 27-14. 27-20. I think that's realistic. I think if you hold McVay, and I think you hold them under 24 points, you win the game. They're going to score. It's not going to be a 18 to 15 game, but I think if you hold them under 24, you win the game. I think the Seahawks win and kind of wake up the entire nation. Okay, about week 15. Quite honestly, there's like 4 storylines I want to talk about. I'm going to brush over the extra stuff first. The Bears take care of the Browns. The Browns are a dumpster fire. They can't run the football. Stefanski, I think he sucks. Shador throws 3 interceptions, but I mean, he's showing flashes. He puts that one ball in an absolute basket to Judy, and Judy just lets it bounce off his chest into the other guy's arms. That was pretty frustrating to see. Bears, Caleb, great. And I think that's a great game to have before you host the Packers in Soldier Field next week. I think him making confident throws, he's making those plays that he's making as a number 1 overall pick. That's what you want to see. 17-28, a little bit more efficient. They ran the ball well once again. I think that's a great sign before next week. It's a massive battle in Soldier Field. What else? Ravens take care of the Bengals. The Bengals are really, really hard to watch. It's a good win for the Ravens, but it wasn't the most convincing. Still the offensive struggles. And it looks like it's going to be week 18 for the division against Pittsburgh. That's all I got. The Bengals are just a disaster. Burrow played horrible. And just the defense got ran up. These got ran over. I mean, Derrick Henry, 11 carries for 100 yards. It was bad. Commanders, Giants. Commanders beat the Giants 29-21. Mariota plays well. Dart looks kind of bad. I hate Mike Kafka. Mike Kafka is one of my least favorite interim coaches in the entire NFL history. If you're an interim coach, you're supposed to be fun. You're supposed to give me something to be excited about when I watch this team, especially when you have a young star quarterback. That's not what Mike Kafka's done. That sucks. Raiders, Eagles 31, Raiders 0. Good way to get back on track for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Jalen Hurts has 3 passing touchdowns. The Raiders are a dumpster fire. I don't think there's any way you can keep Pete Carroll next year. I don't think there's any way you can keep Geno Smith on the roster next year. It's sad to see, but they're horrible. They're one of the most hard to watch teams in the entire league. Jets, Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence has one of the most insane fantasy football halves of all time. Fantasy football games of the entire year, I believe. He had 5 passing touchdowns, 330 yards. Led the team in rushing with 1 rushing touchdown, 5 carries, 51 yards. He had a hell of a game. They took care of the Jets. It was a big offensive performance for the Jags. Cardinals, Texans. Just kind of it's been the same Cardinals game script, just like every single game. They lose by 20. Jacoby Brissett feeds Michael Wilson. He feeds Trey McBride. And they lose by a lot of points. And Brissett fills the stat sheet. Cool note for the Texans, Jawar Jordan, first undrafted rookie with 100 yards, I think, ever in his debut game. So that's cool. Good game for Stroud, 29-20, 22-29, efficient, 260 yards passing. This is exactly what you want to see if you're a Texans fan. Just a dominant win. Lions, Rams. I talked about the Rams kind of already earlier. The Lions, man. The Lions are all of a sudden 8-6. They're in a spot where they got to not win the division. That's probably not going to happen. And they got the Steelers, Vikings, Bears coming up. They got to take care of the Steelers this week. If they don't lose to the Steelers, back-to-back division games, a Vikings team that beat them earlier this season. They're just in a rough spot, man. They're losing games in a lot of different ways. The offense will struggle. Defense struggles the next week. This is a great game from Goff, a great game from Monra, a great game from J-Mo. They couldn't really get that run game going, but you score 34 points, you should be expected to win a lot of games. And they just didn't show up. Defense didn't show up. It's just kind of been they can't get both sides of the ball clicking at all so far this season. All right, on the 4 storylines. I guess I'll talk about Monday Night Football first. Steelers beat the Dolphins 15-28. Honestly, I was kind of surprised to see the Steelers win this game convincingly. They looked good. This is probably Rodgers' best game of the entire season. Kenneth Gainwell, 13 carries, 80 yards, 20 more yards receiving. Just a classic Dolphins football game. They lose a game in the cold. Tua looks poor. McDaniel says they're exploring all options. I'd say you might as well not. You just say F it, bro. Especially, I don't want to see Zach Wilson. Start Quinn Ewers. I get he's a 7th-round pick, but this was a guy that was one of the best recruits in the entire country. The talent's in there. Starting for 3 games, what's the worst thing that can happen? Because you're not going to get much worse than what Tua's putting out there, and you're not going to make the playoffs. You're officially eliminated. The 3-week glory run was fun. Start Ewers, because otherwise these games are unwatchable for the Dolphins. All right. A few big ones I'd say to cover. The first is the NFC North. I'm just going to cover it as an entire whole. No one wants to win this division. That Thursday night loss by the Buccaneers was one of the most embarrassing losses I have ever seen in my entire life. They were up 2 scores with like 8 minutes to go, and they let Kirk Cousins go back-to-back touchdown drives, 373 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and Kyle Pitts has the greatest game of his entire career. 11 receptions, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns. Bijan, 8 receptions, 82 yards, 19 carries, 93 yards. You just got embarrassed. And for Todd Bowles, a defensive head coach, to get embarrassed by your already previously eliminated division rival like this is arguably a fireable offense, in my opinion. If they don't make the playoffs, it is absolutely a fireable offense. But that was embarrassing. The offense looked flat. Baker threw a pick when it mattered most. His play has really, really cratered this season. It's absolutely embarrassing, quite honestly. There's no other word for it. Embarrassing. You're up 14-28. The Falcons score. They missed a 2. You're up 8. All you have to do is go get a field goal. You're going to win. And Baker throws a pick to give them a 50-yard field, lets them go down and score, and then they miss the 2. So you stop both times. So you're up 2, and all you have to do is just milk out the clock. And he misses a Mecca on a second down, stops the clock for them. You punt them the ball back with 2 minutes to go. And arguably the most egregious part of this ball is Todd Bowles in this situation. You got them to 3rd and 28, and you let them complete back-to-back passes. Kyle Pitts goes 14 yards. He shakes a defender and gets you to 4th and 14. And then you play a soft cover 2 on 4th down and 14 and let, what's his name? David Sills, the 5th? You let David Sills catch a 21-yard corner ball on the sideline. Why is your cornerback playing cover 2 on 4th and 14, just letting him there? You don't need to go up on anything, dude. Let them catch the ball in front of you and make the tackle. Why are you not sinking back on that? That was frustrating to see. That was disgusting to see, honestly. And then to the Panthers, the other team in the division, you have one of the biggest opportunities of the entire season, because if you beat the Saints, who are 3-10, then you're in a spot where all you have to do is win one game against the Buccaneers. You're in a spot where you're hosting the Buccaneers at home this week, and this would have been an opportunity to clinch a playoff berth. And you don't. You lose to the Saints in embarrassing fashion. You get outscored 10-0 in the 4th quarter. Bryce Young has multiple chances to have a game-winning drive, and he doesn't. He blows it. And Tyler Shuck, I'll give it to him, he makes the plays. I wasn't a huge Tyler Shuck guy, and he absolutely showed out in this game. The Saints actually might have something in Tyler Shuck. Bryce Young had 4 drives in the 4th quarter. The first drive, they're up 17-10. It's 11-play, 32-yard drive that ends in a Chuba Hubbard getting stuffed on the New Orleans 35 on 4th and 1. And it could have been Joey Sly there. I'm fine going for it, but you have to execute. It's 4th and 1, get a yard. Then the next drive, you're up 17-10 still. A chance to get a few first downs, milk some clock. And I don't want to say it's soft, but Bryce Young completes a pass on 3rd and 5, 4 yards, 4th and 1. They're on their own 30, so they punt. I understand that. But complete a ball to the sticks. And you milk a few more minutes, and you probably win the game. Then the Saints go down and score. Bryce Young gets the ball with a chance to have a game-winning drive. There's 2.5 minutes left. Worst case scenario here, you want to milk all the clock, and either the time runs out, you go to overtime, or you win the game. Nope, because they get the first down, 2-minute warning. Bryce Young takes a sack. It's 2nd and 19. It gets the 3rd and 14. He runs. The Saints use timeout, get the ball with a minute left. Even then, the Saints have the ball on their own 9-yard line, and they let him drive it down with ease. He goes incomplete, and then you get 20-yard pass to the 30, 9-yard pass to the 40, 15-yard pass. You're in field goal range. And I will say there's the controversy with the slide and the hit. I thought it was a soft call, but you should have never even been in that situation. And Shuck sold it well. Okay. The fact that they were in that situation in the first place, I thought makes them deserve to lose that game. So now they have 2 games against the Bucs, 1 game against the Seahawks. They're both 7-7. I don't know how the tiebreakers work out. I believe if the Panthers, they have to win 2 of their last 3, and same with the Bucs. This game on Sunday, I have no idea who's going to. I mean, I would think I have to like the Bucs a little more, just based on all the amount of weapons that they have. But they're bad. They're a bad team right now. They're a broken team, and their defense is bad. They have no pass rush. They're poor. That's all I have to say. They're just hard to watch, to be honest. Both these teams are hard to watch. Another storyline. The Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, it's over. And unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes' season is over. He tears his ACL. It was a horrible day for injuries across the NFL. It was a sad way for the dynasty to end. I've never been a huge Chiefs hater, but it, I've always kind of appreciated the greatness, I'd say. And it was sad to see it end like that. You never want to see one of the best players in the sport get hurt. These are potentially going to miss the beginning of next season. But this game was kind of just an embodiment of the entire Chiefs season. They have too many holes in the roster, holes in the team, holes in the game plan to they're not the team they used to be. And this was kind of the classic game script that they've had multiple times this season. Mahomes has the ball, they're down 3, there's a chance to go down and either tie it up, send it to overtime, or win the game. And they just can't capitalize. That's a situation they've been in every loss this season. They lost to the Chargers week 1, same situation. Lost to the Eagles week 2, they lost by 3. Every single loss was a one-score loss, which is pretty insane, except the Texans game last week, which was one score practically the entire game. They just didn't have the offensive firepower. The defense couldn't make stops when they had to. Herbert plays another gritty football game. I mean, it's not the prettiest by the Chargers right now, but he's winning games. You gotta give props to him there. Props to my boy Mike Stu, 10-4 Los Angeles Chargers. But this was just, they can't run the football. I mean, Pacheco, 11 carries for 21 yards. You're not going to win a game like that. Mahomes was 2 for 15. Kareem Hunt, 6 for 12. It was just ugly. And this is a broken roster. This is perhaps the last time we're ever going to see Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes on the same field playing together. The receiving core that was supposed to be so stacked after Rice got back wasn't. Worthy was a huge disappointment this season. Rice was honestly a bit of a disappointment ever since his first game back. He wasn't that alpha number 1 receiver that people thought he was going to be. And yeah, this team had holes, and this kind of just was the embodiment. It was kind of ironic that this was how the season ended, with Mahomes trying to save the year, scrambling, doing all he can, and it added up. So that's pretty sad to see there, but a huge win for the Los Angeles Chargers. Massive. Bills Patriots, what a game this was. And just what a game. Oh, quite honestly, the Patriots go up 21-0. It's like, oh my gosh, are the Bills this bad? And they absolutely erupt. And I think where it started was right before the half. The Bills get a touchdown to make it 21-7, and the Patriots go down and get 3, but the Bills are getting the ball at a half. So I was like, if the Bills can score, it's a 10-point game. That's fine. And proceeding in the second half was the most ideal scenario you could ever have if you're a Bills fan. You get a touchdown on a quick 3-minute drive. The Patriots have a 3-and-out punt. Another long touchdown drive. You're down 4. You intercept Drake May and you score, and you're up 4 all of a sudden at the start of the fourth quarter out of nowhere. And then Travion Henderson makes an insane play. He's going to be the offensive rookie of the year. Reverses field, 65-yard run. That was special. But just the resiliency in Josh Allen, it proved they're not going to win the division, but this was a massive win just for pure confidence of the team to show that I think they're better than this team. And the defense made stops when they needed to. Josh made the big plays when he needed to. May kind of curled up. He didn't have his best fourth quarter at all. 3-and-out punt and a 4-out turnover on downs to end the football game. And the first drive of that game was that he tossed it to Travion. Travion runs. He's going to be fine. The Patriots are going to be fine. And you could look at it in the perspective that it's probably not good they lost the game, but to have a loss like this, get it under your belt, these are like learning losses for a team that's 11-3, and you can afford to have some of those when you're New England Patriots in this scenario. Up next, we'll go Packers-Broncos. Micah Parsons done for the year, tears his ACL. That's a massive blow. This was just a horrible day to be a Packers fan, because not only you lose your stud pass rusher who's has the opportunity to win you football games, a game-breaking player, but your quarterback doesn't show up, throws 2 big interceptions, just poor throws. He has an inefficient day of 24 of 40, 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. You lose Christian Watson, who hopefully is going to be fine. It was just kind of the Packers right now. That's what this team is, their kryptonite. This is a great Broncos defense that they moved the ball down the field the first 2 drives, and that they missed opportunities. 2 field goal drives that ended on the first one was a fourth. You have an opportunity to convert a 3rd and 1. You get stuffed, and that ends up making you have to kick a field goal, 53-yarder. So you get 3 points there. If you convert that 3rd and 1, who knows what happens? And the next drive is a 90-yard drive that you end up kicking the field goal at the 8-yard line. It just a failure to take advantage of opportunities. And I have to give a big shout out to Bo Nix. Bo Nix played a hell of a football game. This is one of the best football games I've ever seen Bo Nix play. In my entire existence of watching Bo Nix play football, this was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. And I can only applaud that. I have to say, I mean, he was special in this game. He was pushing the ball down the field. He's fitting throws in the tight windows. He was converting on big downs. He was scrambling with his legs and making throws across his body accurately. A hell of a football game from Bo Nix. A narrative silencing football game. 302 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, an average of 9 yards an attempt. It was special. So shout out to Bo Nix for that game. Packers, this was doomsday scenario. You lose Micah. Quite literally, that's a guy that can win you football games in the playoffs. And the offense didn't show up when they had to. Jordan Love had multiple chances in the fourth quarter to kind of silence the narratives. Green Bay was up in this game out of half. They're up 9 points. And all of a sudden, the Broncos score, Packers punt, Broncos score, and you're down 4. And you never sniffed the light of day. You had a field goal to cut it to a 1-point game. In another situation where you got down to the Denver 18 and incompletion, kick a field goal. Just sloppy play in the red zone. And that's what loses you football games. And the Broncos score again, you're down 8. You have a chance to go and tie it. And there's still plenty of time left. That's the thing. There's 7 minutes to go. If you go and kick a field goal, you're okay. Or if you miss it, you're okay. You can get the ball back. And Jordan Love throws a pick on the second play of the drive to Riley Moss. Just sloppy. And you get another chance. I forgot to mention one of the worst 2-minute drives I've ever seen in my life. The Broncos go for it on 4th and 3. A really, really weird play because they were in a spot where they got stopped 2 times on downs. They had gave the Packers multiple opportunities. The first one, it's 4th and 3 at the 45. They decide to take a deep shot to Mims. They don't get it. The Packers then have a 7-play, 1-yard drive. How is that possible, do you ask? An incompletion, a 1-yard pass, a 10-yard pass for a first down, then a sack, a 6-yard pass, and another sack. A net 1. And the game should be over at this point. They're in their own territory. And it's 4th and 1, a spot where you can either punt it or you have a good kicker. You can kick a long field goal. They decide to go for it. They get stuffed. There's a minute left to go, and the Packers have a chance to potentially have an insane turn of events, win the football game. And they gained 4 plays for negative 5 yards. Didn't even have a completion. 4 incompletions. None of them were close from Love. He just kind of curdles up in these moments, in these games, and it's frustrating to see because the talent is so obviously there. He just hasn't shown it. And he hasn't shown up in big moments. So a big win for the Broncos, an impressive win for the Broncos. Doomsday for the Packers. Lastly, this game doesn't really matter, but the Vikings dominated the Cowboys. The Cowboys are officially eliminated. It's a disaster season for Jerry Jones. A season where he took risks. George Pickens looked like it paid off. He went quiet in the last few weeks in a few very, very important games. The defense got pushed over. That was kind of the question of why'd you get rid of Micah Parsons to build a subpar defense. It didn't really pan out. He is going to have questions to answer in the offseason. They're going to have things they're going to have to change because this isn't a winning football. They got to build this defense. They have to build this defense. And Dak didn't show up in big moments. He threw for 0 touchdowns this game. Javonte had 1 on the ground. Malik Davis had 1 on the ground. But when George Pickens, the guy you traded for to be the other X factor, who had games where he showed it this season, 3 receptions for 33 yards in a game where you needed him, that's really frustrating. So it was a big win for the Vikings. It's good to see, good for JJ McCarthy, I do have to say, because has faced a lot of scrutiny. This is probably the best game of his NFL career. 15 of 24, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns. No crazy production. It wasn't the biggest Jefferson game. Once again, 2 receptions for 22 yards, but they put up 34 points. They won the game, and that's what you want to see from a young quarterback. Explosive. He has that rushing touchdown in the end zone. 3 total touchdowns for him. Getting some of his swagger back. Good for JJ. Good for the Vikings. And ugly for the boys. All right, on week 16. And quite frankly, there's a few big games. There's a few games that don't really matter. For the games that don't really have many playoff implications, I'm just kind of going to rush through them because, I mean, there's not that many massive storylines, for example. So I'm going to start with the Saturday games, though. One decent one that should be a pretty big thriller. And I'll start with that one. Packers-Bears, Saturday Night Football. I'm happy this game's in prime time. In Soldier Field, the Packers are favored by 1.5 points. What an opportunity this is for Caleb Williams. What an opportunity for Ben Johnson, And I think there couldn't be a better spot for it. I think that the Bears coming off a dominant win against the Browns, they're getting it healthier. It seems like Tremaine Edmonds, their starting middle linebacker, is going to be back in this game, which I think is huge in a game where that last game against the Packers, Josh Jacobs kind of ran all over these guys and broke tackles in big situations. And that's going to be a big spot to be in. On the downside there, Luther Burden and Rome Odunze both did not practice in Wednesday's practice. That is not great, or in Tuesday's practice. That's not great news because that's two threats down the field. Now, at least DJ Moore looked better last week, has best game of the season probably, but you're going to need at least one of those guys. It'd be great to see Rome back out there. Rome hasn't played in a few weeks, and he was kind of Caleb's best receiver early in the season, and Caleb hasn't had that guy in a while. So to get him back in a big divisional battle it'd be nice for Caleb. It'd be nice for the Bears, definitely. The Packers, like I said, Micah Parsons is not going to play the rest of the season. Tore his ACL. Just a brutal beat for this team. And a guy that was the X factor of this team, quite honestly. He had 5 total pressures last week. Going back to that last game against the Bears, he had, where is he at? 7 total pressures. Like, think about how, no one wants to ruin injuries. Caleb Williams not having this guy chasing him down every play, every big down is going to be so massive. That opens up it for Caleb's legs. That makes it better for the Bears' offensive line. Can protect him a little longer. You don't have to allocate 3 guys to Micah Parsons. You don't have to double team him. You can play kind of it more straight up. And I think that favors the Bears. I think everything in this matchup is telling me that the Bears are going to win this game. It's the Bears, though. But the Bears this year have silenced a lot of narratives. And with the way Jordan Love played last week, with even the way Jordan Love played in that first game against the Bears, he threw that early interception. The Bears couldn't really quite capitalize on it. They need to capitalize on Jordan Love turnovers, kind of like the Broncos did last week, especially if there's no Watson. Watson didn't practice on Tuesday. Wicks didn't practice Tuesday. This team is banged up. This team is very, very banged up. Jacobs had a knee injury in Sunday's game. If they don't have Watson, if they don't have Wicks, if they don't have one of the two, especially if they don't have Jacobs, this game is just giving me more and more towards the Chicago Bears. I trust Ben Johnson in these games. I trust them to run the football with Monangai and Swift. They're not going to leave it all in Caleb's hands. And allowing Caleb to have a little bit more of that playmaking ability with no Parsons in this game, I think is absolutely massive. Give me the Bears in this football game to take sole possession of that division. Other game on Saturday, Commanders, Eagles. Commanders announced they have shut down Jaden Daniels for the entire season. I think it's the right call. I called for it multiple times. There was no reason to have him out there. Disappointing for him. He's a guy that wants to play, but especially when you bring him back out there after that injury, the scary elbow injury, and he kind of re-aggravates it, and he has to go out with like attacking that same elbow. That is not what you want to see. That had to be the time when you pulled the plug. I think it's the right call. And honestly, Mariota is giving you serviceable football. Like, this is why you employ a backup. These games don't matter. But Mariota is like, honestly, if you're a Commanders fan, you probably might be a little bit more mad about it. He's giving you a chance to win games. He beats the Giants last week in a situation where you want to get a better draft pick. But he's playing good football. I got to give it to him. He's one of the best backups in the entire league. And he's getting the ball to Terry. He's getting the ball to Debo. The offense looked good last week. But I think the Eagles win this game. I know they're going to Washington. I think that last week's game against the Raiders was a good time to really click. And just for the offense to get back on the same page. They need to get back to Saquon here. This is a game where you can have success on the ground against the Commanders. And I think that's good. The Eagles need to see the ball go through the hoop. They need to see Saquon have these big rushing lanes. And I think that's what happens in this game. I think the Eagles win. To Sunday, Bills-Browns. Bills 10-point favorites. This is one of those ones. I think the Bills win this football game. I think a positive for Browns fans is Shedeur is showing you stuff. You're seeing flashes of a promising young rookie quarterback, and I think you can ask for more. But if he keeps giving you these few plays of game where he's pushing the ball on the field, he's not showing you much less than Cam Ward's showing you. And I understand Cam Ward is the first overall pick, but these are two guys with minimal weapons. I hate the Browns coach. If Stefanski still the coach next season, I would riot if I was a Browns fan. And I think you just want to keep seeing that. You obviously don't want to see him turn the ball over as much, but you have a really good rookie class. You got Schwarzenegger on the defense for the ball, Fannin at the tight end position, kind of taking over the reins from Njoku. I think the stuff's promising for the Browns. So I think give me the I think the Bills are going to win this football game, but I like what I've seen from the Browns in certain stints this season. Overall, I think the Bills win this game, though. I think they're better. I think they exploded last week and they had a struggle in that first half. And to go down 21-0 and still end up scoring 35 points like they did, that was really, really impressive. So give me the Bills in this game, continue building, get to 11-4. Chargers Cowboys, this is a sneaky trap spot for the Los Angeles Chargers. The Dallas Cowboys are 1.5-point favorites at home in Jerry's World. They're not playing for anything. They have to win out. The Eagles have to lose out. They're going to be mathematically eliminated by the time this game comes around because the Eagles are going to win on Saturday. But this is an explosive offense, and that's kind of what the Chargers are a team that they've kind of gritted through these last few weeks. They've struggled on the offensive line. They've struggled to have these explosives to their receivers. And Herbert's kind of just been getting really, really banged up. So I think this is definitely a losable game, especially with all these weapons on the Cowboys. They're going to be playing for really nothing. I could see them going out there just chucking it. And if this gets into a shootout, I don't know if the Chargers have kind of the guns to keep up. So weirdly, the 10-4 Chargers, I'm taking the Cowboys to win this game. I think if they don't turn the ball over, they win this because they've been able to get after Herbert. Herbert has had immense pressure on him for a while now. So I think you give me the Cowboys to win this one. Chiefs Titans, Gardner Minshew starting for the Chiefs. Kind of weird to see the Chiefs 3.5-point favorites against the Titans. I think the Chiefs are a winner in this game. They're eliminated 6-8. They still have some talent there. Some people are going to be excited to see Minshew. I think he has the chance to get the ball to his guys. Kelsey, is this his farewell run these last 3 games? I don't know if it is. I think it probably will be, but I think they win this game. The Titans, I don't think, should be only 3.5-point underdogs to anyone. They were to the Browns a few weeks ago, but the Chiefs are a better roster. The defense is better, and there's no real weapons on this Titans offense. I do have to say, though, they showed some stuff against the Niners last week. Ward showed some flashes. This was one of the best games of Cam Ward's career. He was 18-29, only 170 yards, 3 for 2 touchdowns, but he had some success, quite honestly, and Tony Pollard ran the ball well against the Niners. That was just kind of surprising to see. So I got to say, I didn't hate what I saw from the Titans last week, but I still think the Chiefs win this football game. Up next, what do we got? We have the Bengals-Dolphins, 2 eliminated teams, 2 teams of disappointment this entire season, quite honestly. The Bengals with the disappointment from Burrow. Burrow's quotes, never like to see that. Jamar said he thinks they're AI. That's just a bad thing to say. McDaniel, I mean, at least this game's going to be in the warm weather. So, I mean, you got to hope maybe it can be a fun shootout type game, fun game in the early slate to give some points, give some fantasy managers in the playoffs some points. I don't know. I think that the Bengals probably win this game. I think the offense is better. I think it has less flaws. I'm not sure if Higgins is going to play. There's no reason to rush him back from that concussion. He's still questionable. I think he's sitting in protocol. So I don't know if I'd rush him back. Jamar is going to get fed. You know that. I just want to see Burrow bounce back, man. I hate seeing Burrow have these sad looks on his face, have these rough losses, the poor defense behind him. I hope this is a fun game. I don't know if the Bengals have that many answers for A-Chain, quite honestly. But overall, I think the Bengals just have a better passing attack, and I don't expect Burrow to have 2 back-to-back poor games, so I think they win this one. Jets, Saints minus 4.5, Jets plus 4.5, going on the road to New Orleans. New Orleans coming off a massive win, and I think when you're a rebuilding team, you just want to see a few of these big kind of culture wins, and that's what we've seen from the Saints. They beat the Bucs, I believe. Yeah, they beat the Bucs. Shuck makes a few big plays. They beat the Panthers. Shuck drives them down the field. His interviews, he has some charisma. For Kellen Moore to get a few big wins over divisional foe in his first season is absolutely massive if you're trying to become the long-term coach, build the culture you want to build with an organization. I think it's huge, and I think they continue to do that. The Jets haven't really done that so much. I'm not sure if it's going to be I think it's going to be Shuck. Shuck got banged up, but I think he was just kind of, he did say he was milking it a little bit with that concussion, which I don't really know if you should say that, but I think they win this game. Shuck's been able to get the ball to Olave, like very, very well. And Devin Neal, the rookie back out of Kansas, he's looked good. He's had some flashes. I think what you've seen from Tyler Shuck is more than enough to be happy about if you're a Saints fan, because coming in, this was one of the worst rosters in the entire league, and you're sitting at 4 wins right now. So give me the Saints in that one. Vikings, Giants. Vikings at 6-8, Giants at 2-12. Minnesota only 3-point favorites, which is kind of weird for me to see, to be honest, because the defense is a lot better, quite honestly. The defense is still elite. This is still a Brian Flores defense. This is still a well-coached and team with good players. I mean, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm getting my words all jumbled up, but Brian Flores knows how to call a defense, and against a rookie quarterback, against a guy that has struggled quite honestly since his coach got fired. Dart looked a lot better under Dable. Dable was put in a lot more harmful situations, but he still looked a lot better under Dable than under Kafka. So to be honest, I think they win this game. I think Flores makes it a lot tougher on Jackson Dart with a guy with no real weapons to throw to. He's got Tyrone Tracy back there at running back. He's throwing to Wandale Robinson, Theo Johnson. It's so frustrating seeing him throw the ball because Theo Johnson, a huge, big body, should be an athletic, good tight end, but he just drops the ball. It seems like it never goes well. That Patriots game was a perfect example. He was just like being clumsy, falling all over the place. It was annoying to see. But yeah, I think that the Vikings win this game. And I think if you're a Vikings fan, you just want to see JJ continue to improve. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're 6-8. You're kind of middle of the pack. At that point, you want to see your quarterback that you drafted in the first round 2 years ago, effectively his rookie season, continue to have success. And I think it's a spot where he can get to Giants. His best game of his career last week. You just want to hope that he can improve on that and not go back to making those boneheaded decisions. Up next, Bucs Panthers. Arguably one of the biggest games of the entire weekend. 2 7-7 teams. They're just clawing. They're like both falling down the slope, but they both still have chances to win the division. It's actually pretty crazy, to be honest. It is insane what this division has turned into, especially since the Bucs are sitting at, I believe, 5-1, and people are saying they're one of the best teams in the NFL. And the weird thing is the talent's there. The talent is absolutely there. They just find ways to lose games. The talent's there on offense. Emeka struggled recently. Mike Evans came back and looked great. He looked great. Jalen McMillan came back and made a few great catches. But Baker kind of threw it away in big moments in the defense, which is your head coach's specialty. Need I to say that again? Didn't show up once again, and I think that just can't happen if you're Tampa Bay. And I think it's time for a culture reset over there. Panthers, one of their biggest home games in a while. I would hope it's going to be the fact that this could have been a game, a division clinching game, if they beat the Saints last week. It's just such a missed opportunity. It would have been rocking in there. It's still going to be rocking. It's still one of the biggest games of the entire season. But they play Seattle next week. And I believe the Bucs, who do the Bucs have? Because the Bucs, whoever wins this game just has to win one more. And if they win their game the next week, the Week 18 matchup won't even matter. The Bucs have the Dolphins. So I'd say this is arguably more important for the Panthers. That Week 18 game is in Tampa. I think the Bucs win this. I think they just have too much firepower on offense. And the Panthers, when they win games, it's low and ugly, bar that Rams game. I think that if this goes into a game where you score more than 20 points, the Bucs win. And you can afford a few Baker turnovers if you're filling the stat sheet with 3 or 4 touchdowns through the air. So I think the Bucs win that game for that reason. Falcons Cardinals. Atlanta's -2.5. Cardinals -3-11. Atlanta's 5-9. It's weird to see. I don't even know if Atlanta should be favored in this game. This has potential to be kind of like that Bengals Dolphins game where it could be a really, really fun shootout type game. Like, this is two teams that always kind of fill up the scoreboard. I mean, Kirk hadn't done it until last week, but he did it against the Bucs. And this is not a very good Cardinals defense. This is a Cardinals defense that has just been giving up 40 points at will. I mean, just looking at the last few weeks of their season, they give up 40 to the Texans, 45 to the Rams. They lose to the Bucs by 3. They give up, I guess they give up 28 to the Jags. They give up 40 to the Niners, 40 to the Seahawks. They just give up points. And Kirk's going to continue to feed Kyle Pitts. I would love to see Kyle Pitts continue. Kyle Pitts is just earning his contract. He's up for a contract extension. And Atlanta fans are like, oh my God, they're probably going to. I mean, imagine they re-sign him for like a big number after showing what he showed this rest of the year. And then he goes back to being the Kyle Pitts that they'll be glued to. This is like the worst case scenario because you have to make a decision now. Or he's going to go somewhere else and just become an absolute stud. You're going to be like, why didn't we re-sign this guy? Overall, I think the Cardinals honestly win this game. I've seen too much poor play from the Falcons offense, and I'm not going to let 1 week change my perspective on that. And I think that the Cardinal and Brissett's he's going to get McBride the ball. He's going to get Wilson the ball. I have no doubts about that at all. So quite honestly, the offense I'm more confident in here is the Cardinals. So I think the Cardinals win that game. Steelers, Lions. Lions are -7. They're big favorites at home. This has the chance to get scary, especially like I was saying earlier, the Lions have not played a complete game of football all season, literally all season long. And if the defense doesn't show up and you let Rodgers get into a rhythm, kind of like he was on Monday night against the Dolphins, that's when things can get scary. He was fitting the ball in the short windows. DK Metcalf had that run after the catch he had. Like, that's why he's had a few games in a row now where he showed up and played like the DK you wanted him to be when you traded for him. So you got to give him props there. And the Lions have just been wishy-washy. Overall, though, I think the Lions win this game. I think the offense is too high-powered. I think if Goff's going to feed, if you're going to stop the run game and Goff's going to feed Amon-Ra and Jameson, you're going to be in for a long day. And if you set out to stop the pass, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are going to run all over you. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the best athletes in the entire NFL. And that offense, there's so many weapons. They're kind of just unstoppable once they get into a rhythm. It's can you stop them getting into a rhythm? And the Steelers have showed me too many times this season that they've let offenses kind of, I wouldn't say push them around, but there's been scenarios where they do kind of. The Bears put up 31. The Bills put up 26. The Packers put up 35. The Bengals put up 33 with Joe Flacco. I think if you get them going through the air, this is a big day for the Lions receivers. Raiders, Texans, I'm going to say like 30 seconds about this game. The Texans are going to dominate the Raiders. If the Raiders score more than 12 points, I'm going to be quite shocked. I don't care if it's Geno, Kenny Pickett. This is a broken team. This offense is broken. There's a lot of teams that are hard watches. This is the hardest watch in the entire league. They're horrible. The Texans are going to dominate them. It doesn't matter if the Texans score 10 points. I think they probably win this football game. Last game of the afternoon slate, Jaguars-Broncos. A sneaky game. Like looking at a preseason, you're not going to think this is going to be a game between a 10 and 14 and a 12 and 2 team. It is. The Jaguars. I got to give props to the Jaguars. They have rebounded after a tough middle stretch of the season to rattle off 5 in a row where they look, quite frankly, dominant. They dominate the Colts 36-19. They dominate the Jets. Jets are a bad team, but Trevor Lawrence looks explosive. Brian Thomas Jr. had an opportunity to have one of his best games the entire season. And the Broncos coming off a massive win against the Packers, an elite game from Bo Nix, an elite game from the defense in moments that they had to show up. It was a massive win. I keep saying massive, but it was a massive win. And I think that continues. I think the spread only being 3 years is a little bit surprising in favor of Denver. I think Trevor Lawrence has shown that he's a guy that you can easily rattle and force into some of these bad turnovers on offensive perspective. And I think against the Broncos, which is one of the top 3 defenses in the entire league, that trend kind of continues. And if they can't get the run game going with ETN, they stop Lawrence with his legs, take away his first read, which has been Jacoby Myers a lot of the times recently. Jacoby Myers has been absolutely great. I think it could be a long day for him, honestly. I could see the Broncos winning this game by a score or 2, which is crazy to say for Denver, but if Bo Nix continues to build off what he showed last week going into the playoffs, that's not a team you want to play, quite honestly, and I have to admit it. I do have to admit it. The Broncos are scary if they're playing like they were against the Packers last week. Sunday Night Football, Patriots-Ravens. Baltimore is favored by 3 points at home. I just don't know if I can take the Ravens favored by 3 points against anyone this season, against a good team. I understand the Patriots coming off that loss. It showed some flaws, but this is still one of the best teams in the league. And even though they did lose that game, they showed a lot of good things against the Bills team that beat the Ravens, albeit it was week 1. The Ravens, although they beat the Bengals, they struggled. They didn't. This wasn't like a dominant game. The offense sputtered at the beginning of the first half. Second half, quite honestly, too, there was multiple chances for the Bengals to get back in the game, and then Burrow threw that pick 6. So it's not like it was this dominant full game of football played by the Ravens offense and defense. It wasn't at all. So I think, honestly, I'm going to take the Patriots in this one. Like, I think especially coming off that loss, if Vrabel's going to have his guys going, he's not going to let them fall into a little bit of a skid before the playoffs. I don't care if it's in the bank. The Ravens have had multiple opportunities to impress me this season, and they just haven't. They have been one of the most disappointing teams to watch this entire year. And I think, honestly, I'm pretty sure I saw this game doesn't even matter because the Steelers are 8-6. I guess if the Steelers beat the Lions, then the Ravens have to win. So at least they'll know. But if the Steelers lose to the Lions and the Ravens, okay, no. So the Ravens do have to win. I mistake that because I was looking at it as actually. I'm not sure. I'm kind of just yapping at it right now because I saw a scenario where I believe it said that if the Ravens win like they're supposed to, and the Steelers lose to the Lions, obviously then Week 18's for the division. But I'm pretty sure if they lose, then Week 18 might just be for the division no matter what, as long as the Steelers lose. The only scenario where the Ravens have to win is if the Steelers win the game, because that would put together an 8-8 tie, like tying scenario where the Ravens could potentially have the tiebreaker if they won in Week 18. I think. Don't quote me on that. Sorry to not have that fully up to date, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. And I think the Patriots are going to win this football game. Just what I've seen from them, with Travion having success in the run game, the Ravens they didn't play a good running defense last week, running offense. The Bengals are poor. They were poor on all around the field, quite honestly. It was just a bad performance all around. And like I said, Vrabel coming off of that loss, a bit of a chip on their shoulder, prime time to add to that. And Lamar just hasn't shown me that he's Lamar, quite honestly, this entire season. He has not shown me that he's Lamar Jackson. I haven't seen enough from him. I haven't seen him be the MVP player. Even last week, it's not like he was making these spectacular plays. And this is a good Patriots defense. They shut down the Bills at the beginning of that game. And yes, Allen did continue to find some trouble. But I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there was some help from the referees. There absolutely was some help from the referees in that game. And you can't blame it on that, but there was some 50-50 calls that went the other team's way. That quite honestly, I'd be pissed about if I was a fan of that team watching that game. All right, on to Monday Night Football, last game. And this game sets up. It's a it's an interesting game to set up because it gives us. Sorry, let me just pulling it up here. The San Francisco 49ers versus the Indianapolis Colts. I'm happy that Phillip Rivers is starting again because I'm happy I get to root on Phillip Rivers. And he's not playing my team. I would have so badly loved to root on Phillip Rivers last week if he was playing anyone against the Seahawks. I thought the story was so cool. It was awesome to see. And he gave him a chance to win the football game. And with the way that they played that game, I think it gives them a chance to beat the 49ers. Is that an insane thing to say? Maybe. I think it definitely gives them an opportunity because the way they set that up, it was a game plan where Shane Steichen, it was run, get to a 3rd and 4, pass the ball. Run, hopefully it's 3rd and short, Rivers completes it. And they bottled up Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor ended up averaging like 3 to 4 yards a carry. And in the end of he didn't break a single long run, quite honestly. Amir Abdullah had a few kind of explosive runs after the catch in the short passing game. Because the Seahawks run defense is so good. But I don't think that the Niners are prone to giving up an explosive run for Jonathan Taylor, giving up a touchdown or two. Tony Pollard ran for 140 yards on them last week. 140 on like 14 carries. He averaged 10 yards a carry. And the game should have got to a point where Ward had to keep throwing. They couldn't continue to run the football. This is a better Colts defense than the Titans defense. This is a better run game, better in the trenches. And Brock Purdy's susceptible to some turnover. He was running around making Brock Purdy plays in that game. Yes, you're playing the Titans, one of the worst teams in the entire NFL. I think this sets up poorly for the Niners. It's a spot where they're favored big on the road. Kind of everyone's counting out the Colts. No one thinks they're going to win. It's a big story on Prime Night Football. Rivers couldn't close it out in Seattle. I think he closes this game out here. I think Taylor has a big day. He runs for a 50-plus yarder, runs for 2 touchdowns, 130 yards, and Rivers makes the plays he needs to make, doesn't turn the ball over. They force a few Purdy INTs, and I think that leads to an Indianapolis Colts interception. All right, long show, I know. A lot to say. Got to wrap it up here. Thank you for listening if you made it to this point. I might post a show on Friday, depending on how the Seahawks game go. I might go live on my Instagram at the game, pre-game, post-game. I'm not sure. Look out for a notification there. But thanks for listening if you made it this far. Big game on Thursday. Can't wait. And yeah, go Hawks.